Hey guys, welcome back to the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Let's Play. So in the previous episode, we dealt with the character generation and we did the Endar Spire, the boring tutorial level, and we pretty much just got a chance to meet Karth, and that was about it. So here's where we're going to really start playing the game properly, and here's where I'm really going to be diving into sort of the lore, because it's the first real opportunity I've had. Now, Karth is our first real party member. We had Trask Olgo during the tutorial segment, and I have a little more to share with you about him in time, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. And in this particular episode, we're going to be exploring the upper city of Taris, and we're going to be getting to know Karth a little bit better. I mentioned in the prior episode that the game was already doing a good job of trying to seamlessly blend in bits of information and references, and just frankly concepts that had already been established in the mythos in other works. Again, one of the reasons why I love this game so much is the respect it had for the other material in the Legends timeline, the expanded universe at the time. Anyway, what I have to praise this time is a little bit more specific with regards to Karth. Now, Karth's already told us a fair amount about this planet. And realistically, this is done so that we have a frame of reference for where we are and what we need to be doing in the game, so that we have like a sort of a compass or something pointing our direction, telling us what to do, what our objectives are. That has nothing to do with lore. That has nothing to do with anything other than just giving the player some sort of framework to work within. It's what I want to talk about that was done well is that they made sense for Karth to know what he knows. He's not just spouting exposition. They establish in this game, in the dialogue in the prior episode, that Karth, we've been unconscious. Our character, Revan here, or what have I called myself again? Thrall Cast here, the scout in the service of the Republic military, by special request of the Jedi, no less. That's not suspicious at all. Anyway, we've been unconscious for several days, and during that time, Karth has very pragmatically been scouting around the area, so he already knows a fair amount about the situation. But aside from that, as we come to find out, not necessarily, well, a lot of this is spelled out in this game, but we get the firm impression that Karth, he's very shrewd, okay, and he knows a lot more about the Jedi and the Sith than the average bear. He knows a lot more about them than your typical commoner would, in specific detail. And the reason for that is because he has experience with them. He has experience fighting alongside the likes of the Jedi, has experience with what the consequences of going up against the Sith are. We will learn about his homeworld very shortly when we question him. Apart from that, well, you know, of course, this game takes place in the aftermath of the Mandalorian Wars. This entire the setting is largely impacted by those events. That really has set the stage for the story that we're telling now. It's a bit like, to use a Game of Thrones reference, you don't really have the current storyline without the sort of prelude, the Robert's Rebellion and the years leading up to that. That's sort of what The Mandalorian was for this game. That campaign, that war, was so devastating and widespread, and it's the reason for why the Jedi and the Sith, it's the forerunner to the current conflict, basically. But the interesting thing, of course, is that it didn't just impact the Jedi and the Sith. It had an impact on the commoners of the galaxy. Karth is just a soldier. He's a damn good soldier, but he's just a soldier and pilot. That's all he is. But this has colored his life in a very profound way. Now, what we don't necessarily know from this game is that outside of the Mandalorian Wars, he has fought alongside Jedi before, not so much because of duty, but because of who Karth is at his core, because he's a good person. You see, he has history with Zane Carrick, Now, I've talked about Zane Carrick many times on my channel, but on the off chance you guys don't know who he is, Zane Carrick is the primary protagonist in the Knights of the Old Republic comic books, or one of the series of comics with that title anyway. And he is the Padawan at the center of the conflict with the Jedi Covenant, the fanatical sort of group of Jedi Masters who could see the future and believed one of their own Padawans would bring about the return of the Sith if they didn't preemptively assassinate that figure. And unable to determine specifically which one that is, they wiped out their own students. Fully intending to do the same to Zane, who was the Padawan of Lucian Dre, a member of the Circle of Seers, even though he himself at the time was not a Seer. But Zane escaped, and so the blame for the massacre was pinned on him, and he became a fugitive in the eyes of the wider galaxy and the Jedi leadership based on Coruscant as well, until he was able to clear his name and rectify the whole situation. But that's an entirely different story. The point is that Karth has familiarity with the Jedi through having served in war with them and through gaining a friendship, almost a sort of brotherly, a very close relationship with Zane Carrick specifically in the past. And it also makes sense for Karth to know a great deal about this sector of space because he and Zane had huge roles and were very instrumental in the Battle of Serico, which I'll get more into later. But Serico is a world that was, most prominent with regard, in terms of story and theme and significance. It was the site of a major conflict with the Mandalorians, and has an impact in this game and is mentioned directly in the sequel. That's where it was first mentioned, I believe. The planet Serico was mentioned for the first time in Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. But we'll get to that when we get to that. For now, let's just have a little chat with Karth.
Yes, what's on your mind? Me? Well, I've been a star pilot for the Republic for years. Seen more than my share of wars. I fought in the Mandalorian Wars before all this started. But with all that, I've never experienced anything like the slaughter these Sith animals can unleash. Not even the Mandalorians were that senseless. My homeworld was one of the first planets to fall to Malak's fleet. The Sith bombed it into submission, and there wasn't a damn thing our Republic forces could do to stop them.
You see, this first response, it seems to be a little bit like it's prying, and so I don't think it's the most natural thing to say to somebody, even if Revan is shrewd enough to pick up on that sort of underlying current within Karth's thought process and the way that he's voicing all this. So instead, I'll say what I would be more likely to say in person, which is, I'm sorry, Karth. This must be very painful for you.
I'm just a soldier. I go where the fleet admirals tell me to. I follow my orders and I do my duty. It's just... doesn't seem right that doing that means I failed them. I didn't.
Them? Do you mean the people of your homeworld?
Yeah, no, that's not what I mean. I'm sorry, I'm not making much sense, am I? You probably mean well with your questions. I'm just not accustomed to talking about my past very much. At all, actually. I'm more used to taking action, keeping my mind focused on the business at hand. So let's just do that. If you have more questions, ask them later.
And that right there is sort of the theme of what a general conversation with Karth is like. You really have to pull teeth to get information out of him. But the reason I went into so much detail with him before I talked to him is to set the stage for the fact that I do have a genuine interest in this man's character, and I like him a lot as a person, though I understand why he's not the easiest to get to know, and his presence, while pleasant in my book, doesn't always, it's not immediately apparent to every gamer, because you have to do a lot of work with that. Anyway, I am going to stop recording for a second and get something to drink, and then we will proceed. Be back soon, guys. Alright, I have returned. I've got my supply of Tarisian ale handy, and I'm ready to continue our adventure. So let's get out of this apartment and start striding around the planet of Taris. Or the upper city, more specifically.
right, you alien scum. Everybody get up against the wall. This is a raid.
Raboda ni winkis makdoma. Tukning nang kong kun na murira ra bes. Wana kun bes. Jing ba murira. Tonking ba non connect.
That's how we Sith deal with smart-mouth aliens. Now the rest of you get up against the wall before I lose my temper again. What's this? Humans hiding out with aliens? They're Republic fugitives! Attack!
You see, I know this guy's a bad guy because he's got a British accent.
Chiska du sukiku pa nabona na kachu. Tuinkotu. Topa da bunkwalya gandonago chuchut. Kabachi kuita hodonga. Yalamo inkatun. Jiloba mulirani bobo. Wango kumbeska gang. Ba mamarulira. Kuyami juskuna chitanai. Ina kun mamarulira rachikun. Slimo padona. Rundi hodonga chihonkabi.
Won't someone come searching for this patrol?
Jawana bota ayuata honga chakanki dora. Kachi kuita hodonga. Topa da bunkwalya gando do nago chuchut. Muksha papangpa. Bola wana chikne. Uba batu konchi. Tong nongbong shang yung.
So, one of the common complaints about this game that I hear to this day is the conversations with the aliens and like their dialect people get tired of hearing the same alien phrases repeated over and over again. That's never been a huge detraction for me. There are a couple of phrases like Hachua Penki and Kachi blah 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 that you'll hear from Twi'leks, like that guy over there. In the back, over and over again. But at the same time, overall, I do appreciate what they did there, what they were attempting to do, because the Star Wars galaxy, one of the biggest appeals to me as a nerd, one of the things that allows me to get lost in the setting so much, is the illusion that I really am in an alien environment. And if everybody was speaking English, or as it's referred to here as Galactic Basic, that would kind of shatter the illusion a bit for me. So I prefer that they go through the motions of giving them alien dialects. Actually, Karth may be able to open this with his basic security. I'm not sure.
On it. It's open.
Yeah. In any case, and also they went through a fair amount of effort, because a lot of that alien dialogue, I would guess that there's between 3 and 4 male and female voice actors and actresses doing a lot of that alien voice work. So it's not just the same exact voice going over and over again, even though it's the same phrases repeated over and over again. And also, just in this apartment, look, we've got Quarren, we had Duros over there that we saved, we've got Twi'leks.
On it.
A lot of variation
it's
here.
It's open.
An Ithorian, one of my absolute favorite races in the entirety of the setting, though this one has nothing to say. Duros as well. Duros are among my favorites. Not for any, huge reason or anything. They even look like the most...
On it. It's open.
Sort of basic alien design, with like their bald heads and their weird colored skin and their big eyes, their big pupilless eyes. But Duros, okay.
Tolpa da bongualeo gondona chuchut. Kachi chu ita dundoga. Yumalita kuto tun. Chilamulane ni dubobo. Wonga kumbis jang ba mulira.
Laram, you rudely interrupted me, so I don't care what your name is, and I'm not telling you mine.
Look, I know we're trying to keep a low profile, but this kind of attitude will draw attention we don't need.
Oh, my bad.
Kuyami juz chikata na patoga ya fulki kokora jiji. Gawana bot atagwa. Kagidora te kun watate mona ia bola. Runda di hotonga kun hankabi. Wanakunbes ching palamule tungking ba nunotek tukning chatukune mulerabes.
I actually do know all about energy shields. I played this game like many times.
Yiking kuno ba mulerachikun. Slimo podona rundi hodunga ku hunkabe. Tong abog sha umninang. Wanga kumbis king balemuraya. Johnny yon tunjiji idadwana. Kavavolpa mulji gumana?
Nah.
Achuta. Wonga kunbis dolbi kikuyana. Dong patugas makdelia.
Alright, as I was saying, Duros, the reason I like them is because
On it.
they're
open.
one of their cultural values. You know what? I'm actually going to talk to her later. I'll come back to that. But Duros, I keep getting sidetracked off my point with Duros, which is these guys here, just to remind you. They value exploration and travel and seeing and experiencing new places. And for a setting like Star Wars, I mean, I don't know what a higher mission in life would be. Like, that would be absolutely my goal if I could live there. So I'd be able to relate to Aduros very well. So now we get our first proper look at the sprawling ecumenopolis that is Taris. Ecumenopolis, of course, being a word that means a planet-spanning city. The city covers the entire world. Much like Coruscant, Nar Shaddaa, worlds like those. And interesting to note, unlike the apartment we just left, in which we only saw 2 humans, one being Dia, who we'll talk to later, and another being a janitor, who I suppose we could have spoken to, perhaps we will in time. Everyone out here is pretty much human. Except, over here we see something that lurked out from underneath.
Davik says you missed your last payment.
Well, good guys. Who's that damn chief? Who's that sheriff?
Here, I've got 50 credits, a down payment. That should buy me some time, right?
Sorry, you're out of time. Now it's all or nothing. Davik can't have people not paying his debts.
But I don't have that much. How can I give you credits I don't have?
Who's that sheriff? Who's that damn chief?
No, help! Somebody help! They're going to kill me!
I know we have to be careful about drawing attention to ourselves, but are we gonna just let them drag this guy off? Hold on a second. Looks like we got ourselves a witness here.
I appreciate Karth jumping in there. You see, he knows that we're on a mission, but he doesn't let that dictate his every move. It's more important to him to step in and intercede where he sees the need to. Despite the fact that what we're doing is going to benefit the galaxy as a whole, it hasn't hardened his heart, and that's what really appeals to me about him. In any case, leave this man alone, or you'll have to deal with me.
Thank you. I owe you my life. Those bounty hunters are going to take me away and kill me. My wife warned me not to take a loan from Davik. Now I can't pay him back. It's not good to owe a crime lord money. He'll just keep sending more bounty hunters after me till I'm dead.
Maybe I can help you.
You already helped me by saving me from those bounty hunters, so unless you have a spare 100 credits to give me so I can pay off Davik, there's nothing else you can do.
Here's 100 credits. Take them.
You're giving me 100 credits? Just like that? I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you.
You're giving him 100 credits? Generous.
Now I can pay off Davik. You've saved my life. Thank you. I'd better take these credits to him right away.
With respect to when this game takes place before the films, which is approximately 4,000 years, I'm thinking there must have been, and I like that I get my money back immediately, these two at 50 each, there must have been quite, just an absolutely catastrophic level of inflation if these people were willing to kill somebody over 100 credits. That's like nothing. I always enjoyed these, whatever these are supposed to be. Magnetically propelled sculptures or whatnot. Now, I also enjoy the visual aesthetic of Taris, with that sculpture being sort of indicative of the point I'm about to make. Taris shares several similarities with Coruscant. For those of you who have read the novel Darth Maul Shadowhunter, you'll understand the parallels I'm about to draw between the two. There are multiple sort of levels or tiers to the city world, and while it's beautiful to look at on the surface, there's a lot of social decay, a lot of ugliness, a lot of danger, and a lot of just severe, what's the word? There's a great disparity between the levels of prosperity, up here on the surface, and the levels of hardship down underneath, down below the surface. That really shouldn't be, especially like on a sprawling hub like the one that we're on. Which we'll get to that. We'll talk soon, I think, about what Taris is and what it represents at this moment in the timeline. For now, let's deal with the drugs.
What is this planet coming to, huh? Shlommy's just walking around the upper city.
Shouldn't you go to the lower says you belong, Slummy?
Well, this is rich.
Yeah, like he said. These streets are for upper city citizens. You better get out of the way if you know what's good for you.
Hey guys, we can all be friends here. Let me buy you a drink.
A drink? Hey! For a Shlummy, you ain't so bad. Come on, boys. This Shlummy's buying the next round.
No way, forget it. No more drinks. We're late enough as it is.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Maybe next time, Slummy. Come on, fellas, let's go.
Yeah, there's not much to say about that one. It's really just like an exercise in your level of restraint, whether or not you have any at all, I guess I should say. So let's talk to this guy, this Gorton Kolu, and that'll sort of be like a natural...
Listen to me, people. There is a terrible scourge sweeping our planet. Heed my warning before it is too late.
Yeah, he's already getting at it, but it'll be kind of like a natural segue
walks among us,
into my point about Taris.
Friends and fellow humans, I bring you a warning of a great plague spreading across our planet. Please, listen to me. My name is Gorton Kolu. Will you join my cause? We must band together if we are to stop the spread of vermin and scum throughout Taris.
Vermin and scum? What are you talking about?
I am speaking of the hideous-looking aliens who walk the world of Taris. The Wookiees and Ithorians and Rhodians and Bith, all of them. Listen, friend, for these are dark times. That is why I, Gorton Kolu, have formed the Anti-Alien League. The time has come for action. We cannot sit idly by while aliens blight our glorious planet.
I don't know what to say about a guy that doesn't like Wookiees.
You are like all the rest. You will not see the truth. On the day of reckoning, you will suffer with the rest of the alien lathers.
Come on, we should keep moving. Kook or no, people like him can make trouble for us.
A plague spreads through our streets. We cannot sit idly by while this pox...
Alright, so that's enough of him. Excuse me, I need to take a drink. I'm having throat problems today. Okay, so as I hinted at earlier, the reason I spoke to that miserable old fool over there is because I think it leads into a natural discussion about the state of the world, that is the world of Taris at the moment. Taris is in a period of decline, and it has been at this point for quite some time. And all of this, again, is sort of belied by the beauty at the surface. Now, I mentioned before to you that Karth had history with Zane Carrick, and that Zane Carrick had history with the planet of Taris, because this is where the Padawan massacre took place. We're going to head back to this side of the city because that's really where our most pressing business is at the moment. Taris is an interesting world. I used to despise playing through this level when I was a kid. It took me hours and hours to get through it. I didn't understand the significance it was supposed to have. I was frustrated because I couldn't use Jedi powers and whatnot. All of this frustrated me to no end, and I had no patience for it. And I have, as I mentioned, used a mod in the past to skip the world entirely. These days, I never do that. The game feels incomplete by doing that. There's so much significance here, from the early explorations of the game to getting to know your party members for the first time, to the nostalgic music, like this background music that's playing right now, the Upper City of Taris, some of my favorite in the entire game. I love it. Even though allegedly it's just basically a slight variation on an Elder Scrolls track, I think from Morrowind, but I'm not sure. Anyway, my point is, I now have a much firmer appreciation and level of respect for the planet these days. Both because of the material that's in the game, and also because of the importance the world now holds in the lore, from in the wider expanding universe, from the other sources that have sprung out from the in the years since this game was released. I'll be talking mainly about that material now, because of course we can see the effects of the planet firsthand as I take you through the game, or the in-game effects of the planet, I should say, or aspects of the planet, whatever. We'll get into that in a second.
Hello there. I haven't seen you in my shop before. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kebla Yurt. Welcome to the Equipment Emporium. You looking to buy some supplies? My shop's the largest one in all of Upper Taris. Best selection on the planet. Whatever you need, I've got. Well, mostly.
Mostly? What do you mean by that?
The Sith confiscated all my heavy weapons, and they impounded all my ships and swoop bikes. But I've still got a real nice selection, if you're interested.
This character, Kebla Yurt, I've never forgotten her or her name, and yet she is a nothing character. She's a store. She is a proprietor of goods, and that is all she is. She will never be anything more than that, but I remember her because of the quality of the voice acting, which is a consistent mainstay of this game. In any case...
Just so you know, the prices on the items are final. No bargaining here. This isn't a swap meet, okay? I only deal in top-notch stuff.
See, she feels like a real person. She feels like she has a distinctive personality of her own that's unique from everyone else in the game. I know Kebla Yurt. I feel like I know who she is. So I'm just going to sell some of my stuff that I'm not going to be using, like, ever. And if I have enough, I'll buy a couple of things. If not, we'll do it later. Let's see. I suppose I don't need both of those. Those aren't worth anything. I don't know if I'll use those. Okay, let's see. I definitely want this, the Ichani Ritual brand. And I don't quite have enough. Ooh, let's see. I guess I'll sell this. It just about wipes out my stash of cash.
What?
What?
Okay, so back to what I was saying about Taris. At the moment, you can see right there's a Sith officer on patrol. I mean, the planet's under quarantine, so clearly we haven't caught it at its best moment. But even if this weren't going on, even if the Sith weren't here, this is still a city mired in a drastic social and economic decay that set in over the last few years. This is not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a recent thing, but at the same time, it isn't decades old. Or at least the economic downturn isn't. The social one is deeply ingrained. But let's talk about Taris just in general. Taris, approximately, well, we don't know in direct terms, I don't have an exact year for this, but several hundred years before the events of this game, Taris was on the upswing. And the reason for that was more or less just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. Taris, like I said, is a planet like Coruscant. It's an ecumenopolis. The entire city, or the entire planet, is one big city. That came about over the course of a single century, which is absolutely mind-blowing if you think about it. And the reason why it grew so quickly is because of its location. During the centuries leading up to the events of this particular game, Taris occupied a confluence of key hyperspace lanes that made it an economic hub because it was the source for trade. Taris, it lies almost directly on the border between the mid and outer rim territories. The lines of demarcation are so narrow that the planet is also nestled in a pocket of space that makes it closer to the expansion region than most of the other outer rim worlds as well. On top of this, the planet was the site of a historic manufacturing plant owned by a corporation called Losan Industries, which was recognized, that manufacturing plant was recognized as the birthplace of speeder bikes. That's a hell of an innovation right there, and one of its primary exports. Primarily, Taris exports consisted of speeder bike technology and sort of other luxury items. It's a city planet. It's not agrarian. They're not growing anything here. They don't have like a booming like agricultural trade. There's no livestock being reared here, no fishing, things like that. So they're not producing anything but technology and luxury items and art, things like this, right? And because of its location, because of all of that, it became a galactic hub world. And in its day, it was sort of informally known by travelers, by spacefaring travelers, as the capital of the Outer Rim. Because of this, it should be noted, it was a full member world within the Republic. It had representation within the Galactic Senate. But mainly because of the business interests, because of the booming economic trade going on here, because of that value it had to the Republic as a whole at that time, it had a lot of influence and support within the Senate, particularly because of lobbyists associated with Losan Industries. Sorry, I cut out there. I had another coughing fit. Anyway, like I was saying, more than anything else, more than any other world at that particular point in time, Taris facilitated galactic trade between the Outer Rim worlds and the core worlds. And that's what made it so important. That's what made it so valuable to the Republic. That's why it had a strong voice in the Senate. And that is why it had such a swift rise. It turns out that it had an even faster decline. This can be chalked up to being in the wrong place at the wrong time, ironically enough. One of the planets that Taris neighbors is Mandalore itself. Like Naboo, Taris was heavily reliant on exports from foreign worlds. I mentioned because, it's a city planet. They're not capable of producing their own foodstuffs, not enough to support the population, which at this time was somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 billion people. And compounding all of this, the corporate boom, like the sort of technological innovations that they had been engaging in for so long on this planet, it led them to pollute the singular vast ocean that they have on this world. And that greatly crippled their ability to survive and feed themselves without opening themselves up or without being reliant on trade from neighboring worlds. Or foreign worlds in general, rather. Again, it occupied, I believe, a confluence of 3 major hyperspace trade lines at the time. In any case, in addition to that problem, let's see, where do I go from here? I won't get into this entirely, because when we get to the Undercity, there's a whole quest involving this. But for a few centuries, maybe less than that, at least 100 years, let's say, at least a century, for at least that long, Taris has been suffering from a severe social decay. And this is because for a period of time, the wealthy members, like the people at of the upper class, the ones that literally live at the upper level, above everybody else, had been hoarding their resources, and the planet was left in the lurch after a series of class-driven revolts and just much civil unrest. So, irrespective of outside intervention, like the planet was already kind of on the downturn, or these issues left it poised to slide into decay. What guaranteed that was the growing threat from the Mandalorian Crusaders, who at this point in time had already been testing their strength and attacking worlds in the Outer Rim territories that weren't associated with the Republic and didn't have protection from the Republic for several years. Several of these worlds were resource worlds for Taris, places where they received imports that were like mined natural resources with which to fuel their booming industrial and technological industries and pursuits. By this point, the year was roughly 3963 BBY. The Mandalorians again had been raiding and pillaging non-Republic worlds such as KotOR for years. The Siege of Taris, it represented one of, if not the first, open acts of war against the Republic itself, perpetrated by the Mandalorian Crusaders. Now, the problem was not so much that nobody wanted to help Taris, it just wasn't seen as being worth the risk. The growing threat from the Mandalorian forces had prompted the Republic to provide military support in an attempt to protect the business interests that they associated with the planet. But the force that they sent to contain the situation and patrol that sector of space was absolutely paltry. It was pathetic. And it wasn't so much that the Republic officers in charge were incompetent or didn't know what they were doing. It's just that they had too big of an area and too few resources and men at their command with which to do their job properly. Seeing this, the Mandalorians, that's the reason they attacked in the first place. That's the reason they sealed the deal on the attack and launched a full-scale siege. They saw that the defense line was absolutely pitiful and weak. They saw an opportunity here. So the Republic forces were routed completely. The officers in charge of the defense were killed and or otherwise defeated. And to top everything off, the world had lost the presence of the Jedi prior to this, or just prior to this, because of, again, I mentioned Zane Carrick and his adventure with the Jedi Covenant. The Padawan massacre of Taris prompted the Jedi Council to recall the masters that had been based at the Jedi Tower on this planet. And so the planet really had no outside support from the Republic or the Jedi. There was nobody here to defend it except for the native population. And while there was a degree of resistance from the lower city, the gangs, the swoop gangs in the lower city that we'll meet later, ultimately opposition was crushed. It was never given, even though it was a full member in the Senate, and it was, the Republic should have been, honor bound or duty bound rather to help. Lawson Industries, the developers of that swoop bike technology that I mentioned earlier, they pulled out of the planet because of the risk it posed to their business endeavors. The planet Taris being in such close proximity to Mandalore itself, it just wasn't viable. And so the whole thing just wasn't worth the risk to the Republic to send more resources and risk more men and more officers. It just wasn't worth the expense at the end of the day. And so Taris was conquered by the Mandalorians, and it stayed that way until the Jedi came and liberated it under the command of Revan. So let's talk with this guy, the janitor.
Hey there, watch where you're walking. I just cleaned those floors.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Well, all right then, no hard feelings. My name's Kadir. I'm the janitor for this building. You must be the new tenant here, right? Never thought they'd rent that abandoned apartment. You look like an off-worlder. What happened, you get stuck here because of the quarantine? Can't see any other reason someone would want to rent that old apartment.
I want to ask you some questions.
Don't know how much I can tell you, but seeing as how you're new here, I guess I could try and help you out.
Tell me about Taris. I'm sorry about the background noise, guys. A car just drove by. Or was it a motorcycle? My earphones are in.
Decent enough place to live, I guess, except for the lower levels. That's where the swoop gangs hang out. Just stay in Upper City and you'll be fine. You also might want to check out the Cantina. I used to go there when I was younger. Good place to get a drink and find out what's going on in the Upper City.
Where's the Cantina?
Just keep following the apartment complex ring until you come to the elevator. It'll take you out to the upper streets there. And from there, just head south a ways. You can't miss it.
I want to ask you something else.
Don't know how much I can...
Yeah, you told me that. Let's see. What do you think of the Sith in this quarantine?
Not much of an issue for me, you know. I ain't never left Taris, and they ain't never gonna. A lot of other folks are sure riled up about it, but I don't really know much about it. I prefer to keep to myself mostly. But there's plenty of people at the Cantina who'll be more than happy to tell you what they think about the Sith and their quarantine.
I'll be going now.
I should get back to work anyway. I'll probably see you around. I'm here most of the time. A building doesn't clean itself, you know.
So the reason I come back to talk to this guy is because he sort of represents sort of the everyman, the guy that just is keeping his head down and doing what he's supposed to and just making it through day after day, or day by day, rather. And between that and the guy who's out on the streets scapegoating the alien population for all the problems that this planet has going on that are just so much greater in scale than any single issue can pinpoint, as I've explained. It just sort of shows the complexity of the political situation and the world building that's going on here. Also, this planet is one of 3 that was, developed entirely for this game. Taris didn't exist before this game. And just the scope of what I've told you, what little that is really in the grand scheme of things, it just shows you how massive this setting is and how much there is to explore, even if only in this game, but everything that was created for it has been expounded upon in other works or was directly influenced by material that was already existing. It also should probably be pointed out that while Revan did eventually liberate the planet from the Mandalorian crusades, Taris never returned to the level of power that it had prior to that, because that was one of several catastrophic events that it was forced to endure in a very short span of time. That was only a few years ago. The Padawan massacre took place roughly 7 to 8 years before this game. Revan liberated it a mere 4 or 5 years previous to this game, I think. Now, the economic decay really became a permanent thing in the years following Revan's liberation of Taris. Things never really got better for the planet because they couldn't catch a break. You have to remember that the Mandalorian Wars were just one conflict of several that impacted this planet in a very quick succession. Let's go inside here. You have the Mandalorian occupation. You have weeks of bombing on the upper city, a ground assault, a full-scale siege led by Cassus Fett on the ground, and several years driven by Mandalorian occupation, which didn't, they didn't really annihilate or decimate the planet entirely, but they took over. And again, Losan Industries pulled out. That was the primary source of wealth for the planet. So even though Revan got rid of the Mandalorian threat, the planet was left to recuperate. And so they slowly start the process of rebuilding, which they were doing. And that's sort of the stage in which we find ourselves here. That's the stage they're at this very moment. And what's going to happen as we progress through this game. Malak will launch a full orbital strike and all but destroy the entirety of the upper city. And much of the lower city as well, for that matter. So you have two catastrophic wars dealing crippling blows to this planet. And even though in the years following this, as we learn from the events of SWTOR, the Republic makes a very concerted effort to rebuild on Taris. And it is somewhat successful. They do rebuild. They do repopulate. Things do get better for the world, but they certainly never ascend back to that upper echelon that they once occupied, because in the meanwhile, the hyperspace lanes that they were at the center of had become entirely obsolete. The Mandalorian attacks had driven people to find safer hyperspace lanes outside of Mandalorian-occupied space. And things stayed that way because in the centuries that separate this game from the events of Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO, about 250 years, well, there's actually like a total of like upwards of 300 years between both games, but about 250 years after the events of this game, they trailblazed the Hydean Way, which, if you don't know what that is, that's the around the year 3700, the Hydean Way. There's some discrepancy as to whether or not this route was discovered or whether it just sort of connected routes of travel that already existed. But whatever the case, that's when the forging of the Hydean Way really became a thing. And what that is it's the only one of the 5 major hyperspace lanes that spans one side of the galaxy completely clear to the other side of the galaxy. It's the only one that does that. And if you look at a galactic map sometime, you'll see that beyond Taris and the Outer Rim territories, there are economic superpowers like Megiddo and Mutalisks and a few others, a tiny handful out there, but really not that many. And if you need to move your products to any of the other more salient worlds, all of the other trade routes, they operate along the other side of the Hydean Way, or just completely other routes entirely, like the Corellian Run and so forth. But so the point is that they just never became as relevant again. And while I wouldn't say that they became entirely irrelevant, they do remain, a Republic world in good standing with full support from the Senate and whatnot. Following the completion of the Hydean Way, Taris lost all of her pretensions as a planet of being a truly dominant world on a political or galactic scale. And so that's pretty much the entire history of Taris summed up for you. Let's get back into the game.
I can't believe we couldn't get arena tickets for this match. Now we'll have to watch the duel on the view screen.
Who cares? It's Duncan and Gurlon fighting. It's not like we're gonna miss anything good.
Shh, they're about to start, so quit complaining and just watch the view screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I draw your attention to the dueling ring. Here, two combatants will battle for your viewing and gambling enjoyment. Now, I hope all your bets are down because we're ready to roll. In this corner, I give you Gurlon Two Fingers. And over here, looking to climb the ranks yet again, is the ever-persistent Deadeye Duncan. And to nobody's great surprise, Deadeye is down again. Don't worry, folks. He's just unconscious. As usual, our medics will have him up and about in a bit. Well, that was quick, wasn't it? So I give you the winner, Gurlon Two Fingers.
Why doesn't Duncan just give the sport up? He's terrible!
Agreed. Let's see,
What are you looking at, fresh meat? You want a piece of me? You want to step in the dueling chambers with me?
You don't look so tough. Like I could beat you in a duel.
Big talk. Go speak with the hut in the corner to back it up. He's the duel organizer. I'll look forward to our match. Fresh meat is just what I need to end my losing streak.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
I haven't seen you around here before. You looking to step into the duel ring? Or did you just come to watch?
I want to step into the ring.
Good to see some new blood in the fight game. Things have gotten pretty stale around here lately. If you're serious about this, go talk to Azure the Hutt. He's the duel organizer. He'll probably start a rookie like you out against Duncan.
Hello there, Offworlder. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Marl. I'm one of the duelists here at the Cantina. I was wondering when you'd get around to talking to me.
Now, this guy's pretty tough. I'm not sure if I'm going to make my way through him. I know I could do it with my other character builds, but with the one that I'm using for this and the way that I'm leveling it, I'm not so sure that I'll be able to take him on. So we'll see if I can complete this quest chain or not.
No, we've never met. It's just that most people who come here to watch the duels are bored nobles, looking for a little excitement in their drab lives. But you're different. You look like you know a thing or two about combat. I'm guessing you didn't come here to sit on the sidelines and watch a duel. Are you looking for a match?
Tell me more about these duels.
The duels themselves are simple enough. Two combatants armed with stun pistols enter the ring. One walks out a winner. The other is carried out unconscious on a stretcher. If you're interested in setting up a match, or if you want to place a wager, just go speak to Azure. He's that hut over in the corner. He'll make all the arrangements.
I want to ask you some questions.
My area of expertise is pretty much limited to the dueling ring and the other combatants here at the Cantina, but I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Let's see. Do you know anything about the crashed Republic escape pods?
Only what I heard from the news reports, which are all censored by the Sith. Some pods crashed into the Undercity. Anyone caught harboring survivors will be arrested and executed. Really, I don't think it's any of my business. The Sith want to call themselves rulers of Taris. It's fine by me, just so long as they don't shut the duel ring down.
Again, another instance of somebody just keeping their head down and doing as they normally do. Because I think that's sort of an outgrowth of this planet just being so downtrodden and being subjected to one atrocity after another. You just become a defeatist about it. Let's see, I want some general information on Taris.
I can only tell you what is recorded in the basic visitor guides. The Upper City is a beautiful destination where intergalactic travelers can find all their basic needs. If you're looking for excitement, the duel rings here are your best bet. Stay out of the Lower City. It's nothing but a gang-ridden slum. Is there anything else you want to know?
I want you to tell me about the duelists here. This is appropriate in that he's the one that gives you the insight on the others, as he's the oldest and most experienced. And clearly he's been paying the most attention to those around him and sort of reading them.
You've come to the right man. I've been dueling here for nearly 20 years, and I remember every duelist who's been through this cantina. Of course, there are only 5 of us left now. Duncan, Gurlon, Ice, Twitch, and me. Bendak's Starkiller comes in once in a while, but he's retired now.
We got the name Starkiller. That's the most hackneyed thing in all of Star Wars. Let's see, tell me about Duncan.
Duncan? Worst duelist ever. His nickname is Deadeye because he fights like he's blind. I wouldn't worry about him.
I only ask him about that because I like his description. Worst duelist ever. I don't really care so much about Duncan. Tell me about Gurlon.
Gurlon used to be pretty good before the accident. His blaster overheated during a match and exploded. 1 in a million occurrence. Paralyzed 3 fingers on his right hand. They call him Gurlon Two Fingers now. He hasn't been the same since the accident. But he's still out here trying to earn a living. That's why I never fight with blasters.
The first time I played this game, I didn't talk to any of these guys. I just beat them when I could in the dueling ring. And this guy absolutely crushed me. I was here for quite a while trying to defeat him. But it's interesting how much character he actually does have, and sort of the backstory for why, you know, they have their names. Deadeye Duncan being so shitty that they make fun of him and say he fights like a blind man, so they call him Deadeye. Gurlon Two Fingers literally only has 2 functional fingers. Ice doesn't have a lot of personality, I believe is what he says about her.
Ice? She's not much for personality, but she's a hell of a fighter. Confident, steady, popular with the crowd, too. If you go up against her, you know you're in for a tough match.
And then there's Twitch, who's just batshit crazy, of course.
Twitch? I think that Rodian is completely crazy, but he's very, very good despite his insanity. Or maybe because of it. Even I can't beat him.
Interesting that they gave that honor to a Rodian. I don't think of them as badasses. Tell me about yourself.
Me? I've seen my share of battles. My best years are gone. But I can still hold my own against anyone in here. Except maybe Twitch.
And just for the hell of it, Bendak Starkiller.
What can I say? Bendak was a legend. Never lost a match his entire career. But he was bloodthirsty as an Iridorian battle rager. Never liked having to face the same opponent twice. Got so he wouldn't battle anyone unless it was a death match. When they made death matches illegal, he went into retirement. He still hangs around here sometimes. Bendak's the best there ever was, plain and simple. Even now, I'd bet that anyone who steps into the ring with him wouldn't make it out alive.
Probably right about that. In my case, I'm not sure I'll be able to. Though I have, of course, many times in the past. We'll see.
Goodbye, stranger. Maybe we'll talk again later.
Interesting that he already calls me stranger, given what our dueling name is going to be. Again, a lot of effort going into this game's production. That very easily could have just been random Huttese and cycled through like some other, just the same dialogue that they could plug in for any hut anywhere. But if you listen closely, in the middle of the alien gobbledygook that passes for Huttese, he actually says his name in that. That was specified for him. That voice actor said Ajur in the middle of all that. Just going the extra mile. I love that kind of stuff. What are you talking about?
Yinkin konobamure rachikum tognabung shanunjang. Kavavul pamurje kumana tongabuk shaumnenung. Kavavul pamurje kumanabak mulira. Chuniyun tunjiji aifadwana. Kavavul pamurjwe kumana.
Vibroblades and blasters? And nobody ever dies? How come I get the feeling you're trying to take us for a ride?
Chiyoka kolmolera. Kien konjo peshak. Nova moleraji. Chaniyon torang chi aifatia. Pula una chimek. Bamulera slimoanga kubisking.
It's not gonna work. I would like to ask for more, but there's no. I don't think that. I think no matter what you do, he never gives you more than 10%. I've tried it many times. Okay, I'll do it.
Ashuta. Wonga kumbistor peki koyana.
Mysterious stranger, huh? I like it.
Kipona. Bona na kacho. Kimba mulera tuana. Tahupa botenya go jojo piti. Kava dumpa kulpa yamokata. Wonga kumbist kimba mulera. Ka kinchana gogba kon.
This is for the best. We could use those credits from these duels, but using your real name is too risky. The Sith might have come across a crew manifest back on the Endar Spire.
Good thinking. That was a solid way of sort of disguising this bullshit quest as something that actually facilitates our mission. If this was like, say, a televised series, I could easily see an episode devoted to this, where where the main character is going through the fighting as a means of getting credits, because we have a mission to do and we need resources. So this, even though it is just for the player to have some fun, it is very it's something that bleeds into the main quest line naturally, even though it's completely irrelevant. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, draw your eyes to the center ring. We have a very special presentation in store for you. You've seen him lose night after night after night, but this time he's after fresh meat. In this corner, I give you Deadeye Duncan. And in the other corner, a relative newcomer to the Taris dueling scene, emerging from the shadows with no history, no past, and no name, the mysterious stranger!
Alright, even my first time playing this game, I never lost to Deadeye Duncan. Please, with the eyes of YouTube on me, do not let this be my first time.
Here! Ah, ha! 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 Ah, here!
It's over! The fight is over! The mysterious stranger has won! But really, are any of us surprised? Deadeye losing isn't news. You have to do better than that to impress us, stranger.
Thank my lucky stars that I didn't lose. That would have been embarrassing. Alright. We'll do some more of this later. So, the goal is to find our way into the Sith base, more or less. Well, actually, that's much later on. The goal right now is just to get to the lower city, so we can investigate the crashed pods and find Bastila, hopefully. And to gain access to that, we need Sith uniforms. And there are a couple of different ways to procure those. I think there's actually 3 in total, but let's see if I can... Actually, let me go ahead and level up. That might make this easier. Bump up our persuade as much as I can, which isn't much. I guess I'll give myself treat injury, whatever. And for me, I think I want this. I think I'm going to be wielding a double-bladed lightsaber when I can.
Hi there. I haven't seen you around before. Of course, they don't give us Sith officers from the military base much time off.
The lovely GreyJedi91, voicing this character. If you don't know her, her credits are extensive. Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents, Mandy from Billy and Mandy, everyone's favorite, Azula from Avatar The Last Airbender, and so on and so forth. You're from the military base? You don't look like one of the Sith.
I'm off duty right now, so I'm not in uniform. My name is Sarna, junior officer, first class with the Sith Occupation Force.
Nice to meet you, Sarna. I'm Thrill Cast.
I'm actually a little surprised you're talking to me at all. Most of the people here on Taris can't stand us Sith. They can make this job pretty lonely.
Well, we'll give it a try. I don't know if I'm quite suave enough for this yet. You're just doing your job, right? I don't hold that against you.
That's true, but people don't appreciate what we've done for them. We could have slapped a curfew on this whole planet, but we didn't. You know, it's like everyone on this backwater planet is in a permanent bad mood. Don't they know we have to make the best of things?
You got a pretty positive attitude.
Exactly, it's all about attitude. I didn't ask to be assigned to this backwater planet, but I try to make the best of it. It's pretty easy to get depressed on an assignment like this, but we do what we can to keep our spirits up.
You need to blow off steam once in a while.
That's true. It's nice to meet someone who understands what I'm going through. It's good to talk about this stuff. It gets pretty lonely up at the military base. I have to get going soon. I've got a shift at the military base, but some of us junior Sith officers are having a party tonight to blow off some steam. I'd really like to see you again. Why don't you drop by the party? I'll show you where it is on your map.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
Don't be late. We're starting right after our shifts end. Most of us won't even be going back to the base to lock up our uniforms. I look forward to seeing you there.
So not only was that a well-voiced and well-written exchange between the two characters, I'm not praising my own voice work, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to come off that arrogant. But that was also the first look that we're given that not everyone who is a Sith or associated with them is evil or a despot or out of their mind or crazy or dark-sided or malicious. She could very easily just be a soldier who enlisted with the whatever the dominant military power in her region of birth or wherever she lived was. Like, she's just a person. Even if she was a Republic officer in the past and sort of became a turncoat, I mean, when you're under the heel of the Sith and they threaten you into doing something, I mean, she could be forcing her, she could be under coercion to act this way. So it's hard to hold it against her entirely. Now, sometimes there's a second guy that you can, I think maybe he only appears if you fail to get somewhere with Sarna. There's another guy, I think, that provides with another window into how to get yourself a suit. Let's go ahead and do one more fight. I'm ready for a duel. Let's just do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, draw your eyes to the center ring. We have a very special presentation in store for you. In this corner, one of the greats, a man so tough, even a disfiguring injury couldn't end his career. I give you Gerlon Two Fingers. And in the other corner, a relative newcomer to the Taris dueling scene, emerging from the shadows with no history, no past, and no name, the mysterious stranger!
All right. Oh, that was easy.
It's over! The fight is
That was easier
over.
than fighting
The
Gerlon.
mysterious stranger
Deadeye
has
Duncan.
won. Gerlon losing to a rookie. Is this a sign that his injuries have finally caught up with him? Or is the mysterious stranger for real? Only time will tell.
Okay, so I'm not at all confident in my ability to defeat Ice at the moment. Yes. So we'll try. We'll deal with her after maybe I've got some other equipment or maybe another level or so, because she can be pretty tough on occasion. And Marl, I know there's no chance in hell that I'm going to be taking him on at the moment. So now I'm going to go back to the other side of, what is this? I think this is north. Oh no, we're in south, okay. I'll go to the other side of Upper City South. Something's bothering Karth. We'll talk to him later. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this portion, or this recording, guys, because I've been talking a lot, and I hope it wasn't boring. I do apologize if you guys were just wanting to watch me play this game, but really, I think the benefit that I have, my experience with the lore, is really what I can share with you. You can just play the game yourself. I'm here to give you insight into what I know about the setting and its history and its characters. So I really hope you're enjoying it so far. But I need to give my throat a break, so when we come back, we'll be talking with Zelko Foreign over there and figure out what his deal is. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.